It has been a while since we've talked about one of the worst Trump stooges and defenders in Scott Jennings, but after what he said last night on CNN, I really have no choice because Scott Jennings put forth one of the most disturbing, disingenuous, and dumb arguments I have ever heard. But not just that, he also got shut up to his face after doing so. So obviously we have to cover that, and we're going to. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we can get into what Scott Jennings had to say, I want to hear the argument he was trying to make from its original source, Carolyn Levitt, talking about Donald Trump's illegal action to try to void Joe Biden's pardons.
Post overnight saying that the pardons that were issued by President Biden preemptively to members of the January 6th committee, that they're now null and void. Have attorneys here at the White House told President Trump that he has the legal authority to undo a pardon simply because it was signed by auto pen, as he said?
The president was begging the question that I think a lot of journalists in this room should be asking about whether or not the former president of the United States, who I think we can all finally agree was cognitively impaired. I know it took people some time to finally admit that, but we all know that to be true, as evidenced by his disastrous debate performance against President Trump during the campaign. I digress on that. But the president was raising the point that, did the president even know about these pardons? Was his illegal signature used without his consent or knowledge? And that's not just the president or me raising those questions, Caitlin. According to the New York Post, there are Biden officials from the previous White House who raised those questions and wondered if the president was even consulted about his legally binding signature being signed onto documents. And so I think it's a question that everybody in this room should be looking into.
So after Donald Trump announced that he thinks he can unlawfully undo President Biden's pardons, we expected Carolyn Levitt to come to his defense, which she only kind of did half-heartedly there, in instructing the media to investigate something that's not actually true. It was just kind of nonsensical from Levitt, but clearly she was trying to walk back this announcement by Donald Trump that he's getting rid of Joe Biden's pardons, something he has no authority to do, and made no legal argument of any sense for why he should be able to do so. And that is exactly what we saw from a couple of Trump stooges on CNN last night, like I said, specifically Scott Jennings. And I want to check out two clips of that right here.
So we have lots of evidence of Biden's cognitive decline. He was calling on dead reporters in press conferences. He was shaking hands with ghosts that didn't exist. What? He couldn't even go, like he was shaking hands with the air. He didn't know where to go. He had to be guided because he had no idea what was going on. He couldn't do a basic sentence without looking at a large card.
Let's say that all of this is true. Again, it's a very specific allegation here. I mean, just on a basic level, you got to be able to actually show proof of the thing that you're alleging. And there is no proof of any of this.
Well, AARP says that $28.3 billion in elder exploitation every year. FBI says $3.4 billion in internet crime against elders every year.
Okay,
this is a question about cognitive behavior.
That is proof that Biden used auto pen to sign the pardons and he didn't know about it?
There's a lot of evidence that elder abuse
those are important statistics, but it has nothing to do with this conversation.
Well, here's the good thing. The good thing is that Donald Trump is going to be the oldest president when he leaves office, assuming that he makes it to 4 years. And so then we can talk about elder abuse of Donald Trump then. In the meantime, we saw Joe Biden actually speak and give interviews and respond to questions about some of these specific pardons, particularly for the January 6th committee that are being referred to. What I think is worrying here, to me, at least, is that there's a reason. You know, this is Donald Trump setting up the foundation to try to continue investigating and to try to continue to go against the Liz Cheneys and the other members of that January 6th committee that irritate him, right? That he's angry about, that he wants to take retribution and revenge on. If he is taking retribution against a law firm that represented Hillary Clinton, imagine what he would like to do. He's told us what he'd like to do to Liz Cheney.
This is
I'm skeptical that argument's going to hold up, but I just would say on the Biden pardons, they didn't go through the normal process. They didn't go through the DOJ. You've been talking about normal process. They did not.
That's true of Trump's pardons, too.
Yeah. Well,
Scott.
I know, but no
So-
one's alleging that he
Well, no,
had
no,
a
no,
device
but-
signed them and he wasn't aware
but
of
Scott, as we've established,
I had a point
since
to make about it.
2005, it has been established the president can use AutoPen. It doesn't change anything.
I'm not-
but also,
I'm not
Trump
arguing
didn't
that it
go
is.
through a process either, and that's not required. It's a constitutional ability.
I know
Yeah.
that, but because it didn't go through a process and it was his own family and it was apparently handled by a very small number of people in the White House, these pardons probably have less visibility than any pardons in modern history.
This is also referring to the January 6th committee members, not the family.
But can I ask you a
but
question?
they didn't run any of this through DOJ. So at the end of
Is that suddenly an issue now?
Well,
I mean,
at the end of the
Donald
Biden, at the end
Trump
of the
didn't
Biden,
run any pardons
at the end
by
of the
DOJ
Biden,
before he
at the
carried
end of the
them out.
Biden administration, legitimate questions have been asked about who was running the White House and who was exercising the authority of the office of the president. These are not illegitimate questions.
Hold on. I think you have to be fair about it. If you say that it's a problem to not run this by DOJ,
No,
it's got to be a problem
I'm
to
saying
not
there's
run other
little
pardons.
transparency
He
in it.
pardoned 1,600 January 6th convicted January 6th rioters, including people who assaulted
And
police.
talked about doing it for months.
And yeah, but it didn't go.
There's no
through-
question
and-
that some
but Scott-
unnamed
but
family
Scott,
member did it on his behalf. We don't know that about Biden.
Just to be intellectually honest, you would also have to say that should have gone through a process, and it did not.
Well, to be intellectually honest, why are you denying all of the mainstream reporting about who was actually running the Biden White House?
That's a change.
Your
including
point,
reporting.
You were just
Listen,
saying that this had not been run by DOJ. But
tonight we are
here's the
all about
problem.
changing topics when questions are
Yes.
being asked. But I just want to note that is not what we were
Well,
discussing.
the problem is
It is.
that he is looking for a loophole to be able to investigate these people. And here's the problem, that if he tells Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, go and investigate Liz Cheney, and here's the loophole because these pardons don't hold, do you think they're going to push back on him? I know Pam Bondi. I don't think she will.
Do you think it's going to stop?
So there's a couple things at play here. The first is these people are stupid and they're only going to defend Donald Trump. And so we can expect that. They're his stooges. They're not actually trying to present cogent arguments. But if they were, what would they even be? That Joe Biden was old, that the media talked about his mental state, and so he can't be president? That doesn't make any sense. Because Joe Biden wasn't at the certification of Donald Trump's election, does that not also count? Because it was under his presidency? Like, this doesn't make any sense at all. But what it is really attempting to do is just distract. Distract from Donald Trump's economic failure, distract from the failure of Donald Trump's mass deportation plan. And while we're on the topic of Donald Trump's mass deportation plan, clearly what Trump is trying to accomplish with overriding pardons for some reason, which he's, again, not allowed to do, is to pick a maybe unpopular topic, presidential pardons, and attack that as a means to broadly attack our system of checks and balances, saying that I can do whatever I want. A court can't stop me. Of course, we're seeing him do this with his unlawful mass deportation plan. But that's really what is at the heart of it, other than the fact that Donald Trump also would like to go after his political enemies, which included in them is Adam Kinzinger, who responded to this nonsensical attack from Trump in this clip right here.
One of those pardoned, although he didn't ask for it preemptively, for former member of the January 6th Select Committee, Republican former Congressman Adam Kinzinger. So again, you were pardoned. You didn't ask for a pardon. It was preemptive just in case Trump's Justice Department goes after you and other members of the January 6th Committee. What was your reaction when you saw Trump's post last night declaring your preemptive pardon void and vacant?
Well, first off, I'm trying to figure out what he's trying to distract from, because that's what all this is, always a distraction to try to get people's attention, or maybe he hasn't felt like he's gotten enough attention. But look, Jake, it's like, bring it on. Like, honestly, so, we had an election. I fought against Donald Trump. I wanted Kamala Harris to win. January 6th was a big thing, but America made a different choice. Fine. I'm ready to move on. I'm like, look, we made it very clear what happened on January 6th. America made a decision. There is one person that's obsessed about the 6th because he still has been basically deemed guilty in the court of public opinion, and that's Donald Trump, and he can't handle it. He obsesses about it. So my reaction to him is like, you know what? Then bring it. Like, stop talking about it. Stop being all verbose. Stop pretending like you're tough. Bring the charges then if you really want to do it, because we will crush you in court, and it'll make me 3 times more effective against you. Look, honestly, Jake, I'm ready to move on too. But if he wants to keep bringing it up, bring it up or be quiet. That's how I feel.
I want you to take a listen to what President Trump said about the pardons on Air Force One last night.
It's not my decision. That'll be up to a court. But I would say that they're null and void because I'm sure Biden didn't have any idea that it was taking place.
Could you hear that okay? I can read that too if you didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think Trump's move to say the pardon in his view is void is because he wants to investigate the January 6th committee members? Or do you think this is more about trying to reopen a discussion about President Biden's mental acuity, which, of course, could also serve, as you say, as a distraction?
It's probably a little of both. Look, I think he's obsessed with January 6th, and there's no doubt if he could break the law and come after us, he would. And, again, we'd crush him in the court of law. But I also think, yes, look, he'll give, when he had Zelensky in the Oval Office, he was going after Joe Biden. This guy obsesses about Joe Biden because the only time he ran against him, Joe Biden beat him, and that bothers him. And so yes, I think it's constantly trying to change people's view on Joe Biden because he gets stuck. I mean, he's trying to negotiate a solution to the biggest war in Europe, but the guy is obsessed with this vengeance. I mean, Donald Trump, you won. At what point are you like, yeah, I won. I'm vindicated. I feel vindicated. But he can't. He's a small man that just continues to get angry. And it's like, fine, bring it on then.
Here's some news for you that you probably don't know. President Trump just posted on Truth Social that he is ending the U.S. Secret Service protection for two of President Biden's kids, President Biden's son Hunter and his daughter Ashley. What's your reaction to that?
It's just childish. I mean, he did it for John Bolton, Mike Pompeo. This is just a way for vengeance. And by the way, Pompeo was a big supporter of Donald Trump. This is dangerous. Somebody's going to get hurt. And when they get hurt, it's going to blow back on Trump. And, look, I hope the next president doesn't do this to Donald Trump. And I mean that, and his family. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do now. He's a very dangerous precedent. And again, this is what happens when you put a 78-year-old toddler in the White House, unfortunately.
Former Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, thanks so much.
Clearly, Donald Trump wants to shift his focus, but in a way, this is kind of backfiring on him because once again, we're going to be talking about Donald Trump's own pardons of the January 6th insurrectionists. And also, we're going to talk about the fact that egg prices are soaring while the stock market tanks. There are no positive changes to gas or groceries, making those less expensive. But Donald Trump is still going after his political enemies, something he said he wouldn't do because success would be his revenge. Well, it looks like revenge is going to be his revenge, while every other issue that people actually care about falls to the wayside. Trump has moved on from caring about you. He did that for about half a second on the campaign trail. He didn't do it. He pretended to do it. And now he's just back to him. What a shock. But we are going to stay calling him out on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.